Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Balance is a program where we try to bring life and faith into a state of alignment so that we can discharge our duties both to our Creator as well as to our fellow human beings. Bringing life and faith into harmony will inevitably allow us to achieve a sense of balance, both physically and on a spiritual level, enabling us to lead healthier, more fulfilling, and rewarding lives. Every week on Balance, we will discuss those challenges that we come across in our daily lives and how we can address these issues in such a manner that is aligned with the teachings of Islam and enables us to achieve spiritually healthy lifestyles. Today's program will focus on finding the best way to manage our time so that we can lead a practical life that is also spiritually balanced. Our lives today are filled with tasks, errands, and commitments. We will try to find ways to manage it so that we are able to accomplish all of our tasks and fulfill our goals both inside and outside the home. We will also discuss our commitment to sacrificing our time for the sake of our faith and how to fulfill this pledge in the best possible way. Joining me today are Hana Malik Sahiba. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
And Amtanur Daud Sahiba. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
You know, if we take a look at the universe that Allah Almighty has designed, it is in such an organized fashion. You know, we look at the changing of the seasons, the alternation between day and night, and even the planets that are observing their orbits and not deviating them for even a second. And Allah Almighty encourages us to ponder over and reflect over these examples and derive a lesson in organization and discipline and apply it to our lives. So how do we start this grand task of organization and time management? Where do we start?
Well, thank you very much for bringing this program on live for the audience. In fact, it is a very important topic that we need to discuss as it helps us managing our daily tasks. However, I would like to take you back to your first comment, and that you just said that the universe is created by Allah Ta'ala for a purpose. So same thing is for the human beings as well. Allah Ta'ala has created us for a purpose as well. And if we keep that purpose in front of us, then it will help us balance our time for our daily chores and for the remembrance of Allah as well. In this regard, I would also like to mention that since Allah Ta'ala has created us for a purpose, we should start everything with the name of Allah, or like Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. There are two benefits, I would say, for reciting Bismillah. First, that it will remind us that whatever we are going to do in the light of the teachings of Allah Almighty and His prophets and Khulafa. And the second thing is that our tasks become blessed. Having said that, I would like to mention that we belong to the Jamaat of Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam. And if you remember that once promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam was revealed that you are the promised Messiah whose time will not be wasted. So this is something very important for me, and we should always remember that we are the followers of the Jamaat of Promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam. So if Allah Ta'ala says that He is the Messiah whose time will not be wasted, and He indeed did not waste a single moment of His life. So as a follower, we should follow His example and His model, and we should try to make balance in our lives by adjusting time accordingly.
Right, absolutely. And our faith has given us countless ways, and there are various guidelines in terms of how we can map out our day and best organize it. There are a couple of very practical things that we can do to manage our time effectively. One way, and a lot of experts on this agree, is to declutter our environment and clean our space. And so what does our faith tell us? our faith tells us that cleanliness is half of faith. And so if we extend that to our environment, that enables us to be able to think more clearly. And so it allows us to really focus on what we need to accomplish. Another very great practical way to do this is to create to-do lists because they map out their short and long-term goals. Lists are great because they help us visualize what is it that we need to accomplish, what are our tasks, what's lagging behind, and things that we've just have checked off. So it makes us feel fulfilled as well.
I love lists personally.
And you could do this from a very, you write things down in a notebook or also use electronic means like our phones to keep lists as well.
And I agree that Hannah has mentioned a very practical example, and it helps me a lot indeed. So I would definitely recommend others to follow this example and make a list. However, there is another thing that benefit me, and I think discussing at this point for the benefit of our audience as well, is that if we plan our schedule according to the schedule of 5 daily prayers, so this I found it very helpful, and the schedule of 5 daily prayers enables us to balance the time for the believers. So let's say if we start our work with the Fajr prayers and follow the schedule of the prayers accordingly, definitely we will have plenty of time to manage our daily tasks that we have, and also the tasks needed for our religious obligations towards our Jamaat.
Indeed, I've like you mentioned, starting your day at Fajr really gives you a head start for the day.
Definitely.
And I feel like by the time noon comes, I've already productively accomplished half of the day's tasks.
Definitely, yeah.
We are going to hear some thoughts on a different aspect of this topic, finding the best way to manage our time.
Time management is the process of planning and exercising conscious control of time spent on specific activities, especially to increase effectiveness, efficiency, and productivity. It involves juggling various demands upon a person relating to work, social life, family, hobbies, personal interests, and commitments within the limitations of time. Using time effectively gives the person choice on spending or managing activities at their own time and expediency. For many people, young and old alike, managing our responsibilities can be overwhelming. With so much to do and not enough hours in the day, it is important to organize a routine that will help make the load feel a little easier to manage. Utilizing proper time management is one way to make the strain a bit lighter. There are simple tricks that can be used to better manage time, and by employing them in everyday life, it can seem to add precious hours to the day. As with anything in life, organization is an extremely important element. Examine the current daily schedule to determine where time is being ineffectively used. When it comes to children, the things to remember are endless. School phone numbers, doctor checkups, extracurricular activities, sports, etc. It's a lot to keep track of. Making lists and using calendars will inevitably keep track of family activities and obligations. Prioritizing tasks is another essential element to effectively time manage. Looking at all of the tasks at hand, it is important to identify the most important ones. We asked some people how they manage their time. Let's see what they had to say. Do you delay doing things, for example, cleaning the house, grocery shopping, studying for exams?
No, I don't. Because the day I get an assignment, I start it. And start it as in you can either I read the whole assignment so I know what I'm supposed to do, or I do a little bit of it, because then if you leave something to do all in one sitting all together, then that personally it makes me fear this big task, versus if you start it, you can do a little bit, and then if you have any questions, you have enough time to get the answers and do it right.
How often do you offer all your salat on time?
So I try my best to offer my namaz day and everything on time, but being a student, we have to kind of work with our schedule. I'm at York University, so we are blessed that we have a religious center where we can read our namaz at whatever time, whenever we're available. Even Jummah prayers happens. But I feel like with all my classes, whenever I have a break, even if it's a 30-minute break, and if it's the time to read Zohar or Asr or Maghrib or even Isha, I go read it. So at least I have read it. It might not have been on time per se, but I don't try to, I try to read it instead of missing it.
Do you feel like you make proper time to offer salat with peace and tranquility, or is it just rushed?
Between classes, I'm just like, oh, I have to go read namaz, and then I go there, and then it's like, it's a separate room. I can just stay there, read namaz, and come back. Sometimes it is a rush, of course, because the time you have to read namaz and go, that's pretty less.
Yeah.
For me, at least, it's more like I can concentrate more at that point, because I know that designated time I took out to read namaz, I have to concentrate on it and make sure that I read it properly before going for the worldly knowledge or for the worldly matters.
If you had an extra hour in the day, how would you spend it?
Welcome back.
Since we are discussing various, ways and options that are available for us to manage our time positively and to make a balance between our worldly life and the religious life, one of the examples of the list Hannah has just mentioned, on similar lines, I would like to mention that if we plan ahead, if we plan advance, this is something also beneficial for a person, because I have experienced myself. If I plan advance, or if I have seen people who plan advance, for example, a month advance or a week advance, that is definitely something that keeps them on track. And I would like to give you a very simple example here. For example, everybody has at some point of time need to go to the doctor, right? Or maybe we need to go to a family gathering or a wedding. Or sometimes, if we have children, we need to go to the school for the meetings, for the parent-teacher meetings. So what do we do for these events? We always schedule them a week or month advance. For example, like a doctor's appointment, we always keep a track of our appointment, right? And we make sure that we are on time for that appointment. We don't miss that appointment. Similarly, we plan for attending a wedding or a family gathering, and we even look forward for that, right? So similarly, if we plan in advance for our daily task and for our Jamaat obligations, then we will be able to easily manage and easily balance our time.
Right. So, and actually, a lot of important points there. Planning ahead and also prioritization, I think, are very effective when we are consistent in being punctual. And so, again, what does our faith tell us about punctuality? We've been told to observe Salat at its appointed time. Keyword there is appointed. And so 5 times a day, we've been told to constantly keep track of time. And so we know that when we are late in observing our Salat, or if we're, straggling behind, or if we're continuously combining prayers for no, justified reason, these are all symptomatic of the fact that we're not effectively managing our time. So we have to stop there and look at, what, we need to be punctual in the way that we observe our Salat, and that punctuality creates a framework for the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I agree. And I would like to take this opportunity to discuss the life of two revered persons, one of the two revered persons, I would say, on earth. The first one is the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And I was reading about his life, and I read that Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has divided his day into 3 parts. One part was for the for his remembrance of Allah Almighty, and he would offer nawafil and prayers and everything that he could do for the remembrance of Allah. And the second part was for all the Muslims, that he need to meet with them or discuss their issues, or provided guidance on religious matters. And the third part was for his family. So this is a beautiful example of Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And if we can divide our task into different parts during the day, we will be able to easily balance our lives. And the second example that I would like to mention to the audience for the benefit is the life of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih al-Khamis Sayyidullah Ta'ala ibn Nasr al-Aziz. Every one of us know how busy Hazrat Khalifatul Masih is. He is, I would say, the busiest person on earth at this time. And there are lots of things that Huzur Anwar Aidullah Ta'ala ibn Nasr al-Aziz does on daily basis. However, I would like to give you a very small example that every one of us, write letters to Huzur. You also write letters to Huzur. I also write letters to Huzur. And people all across the world write letters to Huzur. So in a day, Huzur receives hundreds of letters. And out of those hundreds of letters, I think Huzur reads 600 to 700 letters himself. Wow. And rest of the letters are summarized to him, and he signed on those letters. And this is the tiniest, smallest part that I'm mentioning to you from the life of the day of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih. So if he can manage his time well, then why can't we do that?
Yeah, and indeed, this is the example that Khulafa have set for us. I remember there was a time when a reporter from the UK Sunday Times was interviewing Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Rabi Rahmullah Ta'ala. And her topic was to cover his daily activities. And Hazur Rahmullah Ta'ala said that when I told her what my day entailed, all the things that I covered in one day, she was so dazzled that for the first time she actually changed the topic of her article from a day in the life of, she changed it to a life in the day of, So let's turn our attention now to the quality of the activities that we are engaging in. Sometimes, I feel like we are engaging in some frivolous activities just in the name of de-stressing or relaxation.
Yes, you are very right. But, humans are very weak, right? And we always need reminders. So this is very true that in the form of relaxation, we spend too much time on such activities that are inappropriate, right? This is why we have Khalifatul Masih Aidullah Ta'ala ibn Nasr al-Aziz, who time and again reminds us about the right things and appropriate things that we should do. And this reminder is very important for us to manage our time. So we should, try to, align our lives in the light of the teachings that are provided by our Khalifatul Masih. And he times and again, reminds us that we should spend our time with our families. We should spend our time with our children. We should spend our time with our parents, right? So, but what is happening is a complete opposite. And we tend to spend time on social media, on technology, which is, using or eating the quality time that we need to spend with the people that I have just mentioned to you. So this is very important that we delete those distractions from our lives, and we should ponder that what is more important for us. Maybe we need to, meet our neighbors once in a while to find out how they are feeling, or maybe we need to go to a sick person to find out how she is. So if we will be using our time wisely, then we will be able to find out time for these appropriate activities. Otherwise, we'll be just wasting our time.
Right, and so the Holy Quran specifically has told us about this, the frivolous activities. It tells the believers, عن اللغو يؤرزون, meaning Muslims are those who stay away from frivolous acts. And so what are these frivolous acts? Anything that's excessive, anything that is a waste of time, anything that is not conducive, something that's not conducive to the purpose of our life. If we were to look at these, for example, excessive TV, gossiping, excessive socializing, just being idle. These are, if they're, these are not looked well in Islam, especially if they're excessive. Another thing that was just mentioned was technology, and I do want to, focus here for a second. We all know about the harms of the overuse of technology, but often a lot of the criticism is directed at our younger generation for excessively using technology. And so I'd like to pause here and say that, our elders are also embracing technology, which is a great thing, but we should really ponder over what is the purpose of this use. Sometimes there is excessive use, and things such that are really the purpose of these technologies, such as social media, such as WhatsApp, even ethnic TV channels. These were all used, are really ways that we can propagate the message of Islam Ahmadiyyat. And so if we are excessively using these things and not being conscious of the effect that it's having on our families, our relationships, if this is distancing us from our family members, then we need to ponder on the fact that, how much of my time am I going to give to these, love that are really taking me away from the true purpose of my life.
Indeed. You make a good point that using time effectively is applicable really to everybody, not just children and youth. Now, as members of Lajna Imaillah, we have a pledge, and part of our pledge is to sacrifice our time for the sake of our faith. So in today's fast-paced world, in our busy days, how do we fulfill this commitment, this most important commitment of all?
I'm glad that you raised this point. And before commenting on the pledge of Lajna Imaillah, I would like to take you towards the thoughtfulness of second Khalifa, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Sani, Razila Ta'ala Anhu. He, established Lajna Imaillah. He had a very vast vision of Lajna, or the women. And he used to say that women are very important, part of the society, and they must not waste their time just the whole day spending time in the kitchen. They must do something for the education of other women in the society, and as well as the children. And that's why he established Lajna Imaillah as an auxiliary organization, and we always pledge that we always sacrifice our time and children and property for the propagation of our faith. So every time we say this pledge, it reminds us of our priority. And if we keep that priority in our life, then we will not waste our time for a single moment. And this pledge will, keep us reminding of our purpose and the things that we are required to do in our life to make it productive.
And when we're giving precedence to our faith over all worldly matters, that's what we have been taught. We have a calendar of events. Most Jamaats do, and all over the world. And so here is an opportunity to very practically look at, how do I plan my schedule around the schedule of the Jamaat, rather than the other way around. So for example, on a weekend, let's take a glance before we're planning out our weekend. What's coming ahead? What programs are there that I can take part in? We may not be able to attend every single program. Some may not be geared to us, some may be to the various tanzeems. But let's look at, what is it that I can benefit from? And let me give that precedence first. And then also schedule all of the other things that I need to accomplish on those particular days.
And you make a very good point, because we really do derive a twofold benefit from participating and attending the events and activities that the Jamaat organizes for us. We not only are able to enhance our religious and faith-based knowledge, but we're also deriving benefits, blessings for us in our lives, because Allah Almighty will certainly be pleased that we took time out of our busy day, our busy lives, to give it back to Him.
Yes, indeed. Allah Almighty has showered lots of blessings on every one of us. We are enjoying our lives with our children, with our parents. We have opportunity to seek education, and to some extent, Allah Ta'ala, has blessed us with good life. And if we remember the blessings of Allah Ta'ala, then we will be able to, do everything that Allah Ta'ala wants us to do. And if we think that, we went to a certain Lajna or Jamaat event, or we made a good use of our time once in a while, then it is not a favor of our favor on Allah Almighty, because Allah Ta'ala does not need our favors from us. But it is the favor of Allah Ta'ala that He has given us strength, He has given us knowledge, He has given us time to use it wisely for the good of ourselves, for the good of the members of the society, and for our children who are the future of our Jamaat. So we should not say that, we do not have time to go to Jamaat events or do some things that are required by Lajna or Jamaat. But instead we should say that it is a blessing of Allah, and in return we remember those blessings and do good as much as we can, so that Allah Ta'ala continue to shower His blessings upon us. Yeah.
And what what greater way than to model this in front of those blessings, our kids, right? Our kids are observing everything that we do through osmosis, through, they are at an age when they are really absorbing everything. And so here's a great way to show to them that when I am taking part in these blessings, this is how I'm effectively managing my time. And this teaches them very early on the life skills that they need, so that they can also start to inculcate this into in their lives as well.
And I think the other very important thing is that when you have a list of tasks and commitments before you, is to decide which ones you can commit to, which ones you can accomplish.
Right, absolutely. Here's a place where, sometimes we get so ambitious in how we want to, accomplish everything that, we may overwhelm ourselves. And so why not take a step back and let's prioritize and look at, I may want to do all of these things, but let me focus on a couple. And I need to be okay with that and content with that, because that is my priority.
And that's a very important point, because indeed, when we do overcommit, we would be compromising the quality of each of those tasks that we've committed to, and not accomplish them perhaps as well as we would have. And that can lead to dissatisfaction then, of course. So alhamdulillah, we've been able to cover a lot of very, very good points today in our discussion. Jazakallah for sharing your valuable insights with us. We're almost at the end of our program. So any last thoughts?
I would like to take back to first comment that I made in the beginning of the program, that we must ponder upon the purpose of our life. So once we will have our purpose in front of us, that Allah Ta'ala has created us for a reason, then we will be able to spend our time wisely, and there will be like an interest will be developed within us that yes, I need to schedule, I need to prioritize my time so that I can gain the blessing of Allah by successfully organizing my life around my Jamaat activities, my family life, my children, and if we work around the working schedule as well.
Right, and to add to that, if we often admire successful people in this world. We have numerous examples. And the most important and successful person was a holy prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We should really ponder over not just admire, but look and study his life. And after that, we have countless, other examples as well, such as the Khulafa, and other prominent personalities within the Jamaat. One example that I have personally found very inspiring that I recently came across was a quote of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih V, may Allah be his helper, where he was recently asked by a young Murabbi Sahib that you have so much work to do, how are you so consistent? To which Hazur answered that I think that, and I'm paraphrasing, that I think that if I don't do this task, then who in this world will? And look at the amount of fervor that Hazur Anwar has in the work that he does, being the busiest person on this earth. And so if we can only just take even a tiny fraction of that fervor, then we will never waste our time, and we will really focus on our true purpose of life and incorporate the effective use of time within that.
Jazakallah for that. I'm going to end with a verse from the Holy Quran. Allah Almighty says in chapter 29, verse 65, "And this life of the world is nothing but a pastime and a sport, and the home of the hereafter, that indeed is life, if they but knew." So the reality of this verse reminds us that our short time on earth has eternal implications, and that our entire life on this earth will be remembered in a blink of an eye. May Allah Almighty enable us to recognize the valuable time that we've been given and utilize it in the best possible way so that we're able to send some good ahead for ourselves, for our life in the hereafter. Ameen. Allahumma ameen. Jazakumullah ta'ala wa ahsan al-jaza. And until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.